CRISPR is not the panacea. It's not the solution. It's a part of the solution.
Coming up, we're talking to the CEO of Heritable Agriculture, Brad Zampt, all about their AI-powered biotech and breeding platform. The Modern Acre is presented by Ambrook. Ambrook provides production insights and tax prep in one place with their modern accounting software built for growing farms that need to know their numbers. You can track real-time profitability by each enterprise and make expansion decisions based on data, not just gut feel. Learn more at ambrook.com or hit the link in our show notes.
All right, Ty, we're coming off a big week. You were up for 4th of July. It only happens a couple times a year when we're together with all of our families, so it's fun to have you up for the week. What were your highlights, Ty?
Definitely so fun to be in Lodi for the 4th of July. My wife and I were talking about it. Like it's quintessential American small town 4th of July vibes. We went to the pancake breakfast, brought our kids, and there's the boating on the lake and fireworks and the barbecue. Is just all of the things, and on the 250th celebration. So it was an awesome day. Got to hang out with you guys and friends and family, and got the kids out to the farm the day before, which was really fun. And it was my son Roman's first trip to the farm, so I was very exciting, and he barely knew what was going on. But the girls and your girls did some tractor rides with Papa, our dad. So it was all of the feelings for 4th of July weekend in Lodi.
Yeah, totally. It's like classic Americana of just the small town feel of doing all the different things. And I was trying to give Mason all the memories of growing up having 4th of July in Lodi. We did all the things. And so we always did root beer floats when we were little kids. So got her set up with a root beer float and all the different things. And at the end of the weekend, I was like, Mason, we did all this fun stuff, kayaking, boating. What was your favorite part about the weekend? And she was like, it was sitting on the hammock. I was like, she was with your 2 daughters on the hammock. I feel 80% of the time on the 4th of July, just swinging in the hammock, doing what little girls do. And that was the highlight of the weekend. Still so cute.
Classic parenting moment is having big expectations for some grand plan and then, it just totally flopping. So it happens. Better luck next year.
Better luck next year. I think a great addition was our dad bought a massive Lego set for the girls because the girls have, an interest in Legos, and he bought a massive space shuttle Lego. So that was a good side quest that we were on over the weekend, is trying to compile this Lego. We're about halfway through, so we might have to save the second part for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, that's the big question. Will Dad be able to complete the second half on his own?
Yeah, it's 18 plus, so we will see.
All right, guys. Well, we're going to jump into this conversation with Brad. You may have heard about Heritable. They were a spinout from Google's Moonshot Factory and launched as their own independent company last year, and have been doing a lot in the world of AI breeding and biotech. And we get into what their platform is, what exactly they do, what their business model looks like. These are all the questions that we had for Brad. So let's jump in and start with what's top of mind for him.
I am really excited. I'm seeing the convergence of a bunch of things, which is kind of what our thesis has been since 2019, if not earlier. You've got this AI thing, in case if you've heard about it, and it's really having this huge impact on people's lives. And then the next wave of impact is going to come when it touches the physical world, like material science, chemistry, biology. So on one side, I can really see the future and the huge impact. And then what we've been focusing on, and what I'm also seeing, is the immediate needs of the farmer, the breeder, the person who does sales at a seed company. And those two things actually very much connect. So this is what I've been spending a lot of time really focusing on, is drawing that straight line from the immediate needs, the immediate value, the immediate revenue, the immediate impact, tied to the much bigger vision of where we actually come up with faithful simulators of biology that totally change the way agriculture is done.
Yeah, we're super excited to dig into the platform. You have kind of these three capabilities rolled up into one platform, offering a few different offerings to your customers. But before we jump into that, Brad, let's learn a little bit more about you. What got you into agriculture and what led you to Heritable?
Yeah, so I became fascinated with biology in graduate school. Maybe a longer story, but I went to graduate school for physics, but was kind of burnt out in physics. So I decided to become a medical doctor, and so I took the pre-med classes, and then I fell in love with biology. So then I ended up doing synthetic biology in graduate school and in my postdoc, and then I went and got a fellowship at the Advanced Research Projects Agency for Energy, ARPA-E, kind of the DARPA for the Department of Energy. And there I helped launch grant programs on automated phenotyping and biofuels and other kind of synthetic biology approaches, but directed towards plants. And that's where I really learned that all of the cool principles that we were doing in microbes and in vitro, in test tubes, the real impact comes with these amazing solar-powered, carbon-negative, self-assembling machines that we call plants. If we can make them better, they scale to most of the terrestrial landmass, they use most of the water, they provide all of the food. So the impact and the implications of understanding plant biology was just intoxicating to me. So that's where the genesis of all of this started, and that's where my background is. I moved from being a scientist to now, then kind of running grant programs. Then I went to the Gates Foundation and ran some grant programs in infectious disease. I then went to a startup. I moved to Silicon Valley to be a chief scientific officer of a startup, not a founder, but a CSO. And from there, I went to Google X, where the mission was to work on moonshots, huge generational ideas. And those ideas that I've been talking about the impact of agriculture and the culmination of synthetic biology, DNA sequencing, and other ways of measuring what's going on in plants, it all kind of came together, and we built what is now Heritable.
I have so many questions. The first one that comes to mind is, you said it so casually of then I went to Google X Moonshot. Like, how does one even, like, how did you even find yourself in that position? Like, is there an application process? Is it you knew some people? Like, how did you even put yourself in that situation? I don't even know, what the process is. That'd be helpful to understand.
Yeah, that's it. It was network. Boy, it's an interesting story. When I was a graduate student, I've always been focused on impact and on making a difference, to people's lives. So I worked on some cook stove stuff for free when I was in graduate school. And I ended up meeting somebody at an event who later became kind of one of the founding members of X. Then I was in the Department of Energy, and a colleague of mine, it was a fellowship, so it was limited term. A colleague of mine said, "Oh boy, have you heard of Google X? I really want to get involved in this. Do you know anybody?" And I had met that person, so I connected those two people. And then, I don't know, 6 years later, I was finishing up at this startup. We had pivoted. My services weren't really needed anymore. And I asked that person who I had helped make the introduction for his job. I asked him if he wanted, if I could interview there, and then he got me into the pipeline.
Super cool. Like, just hearing these stories, there's always like a little bit of serendipity where it's like you're building this network throughout your career, and things that good stuff you put out in the universe seems to come back to you in another way, and kind of everything all culminates to really exciting opportunities. So Brad, kind of fill us in with kind of the process. You're incubating Heritable within Google X, and then it spun out, I believe, 2 years ago as its own separate company. Like, just talk to us about how that's structured. Is Google still own it 100%? Or are you like a separate cap table? Just talk to us about kind of the structure there as you spun out.
Oh, we're a completely independent, regular startup. Google LLC does have a small position on the cap table. The assets that we took with us as we spun out, all of the IP, all of the code, all of the data, that was the contribution that Google made, large contribution, and they have a position on the cap table commensurate with that. It's not huge. We're for the investors out there where our cap table looks like a normal company, but they do have a presence. And yeah, we're running independently now. I still have wonderful connections. I go over to X pretty regularly. There's a lot of communications that we've done together, and we still talk to some of the research folks over there. But generally, you should consider us a completely independent spin out.
So Brad, let's get into the original thesis. Like, talk to us about what is this company? What do you make, or what's your technology, and what customers do you serve? Let's maybe start there.
So the original thesis of Heritable was that if you can combine three revolutions that we see happening in the world right now, you have the opportunity to totally rethink the way agriculture is done. These three revolutions are remote sensing. We have unprecedented information about our planet. That includes satellite embeddings. It includes information that's on the edge on tractors. It includes weather stations. It includes models, global models of soil. You have a revolution in the amount of information we have about biological systems. So people may have heard that the cost of DNA sequencing has dropped precipitously over a decade. That's true in many other domains. The chemicals that are inside plant tissues, the RNA, which is a similar molecule to DNA, the proteins. We have a lot of information about that, and that allows you to be able to understand what's happening inside plants better. And then the issue there is that those two things are very, very hard to combine. It's really heterogeneous data. You have precipitation, you have RNA sequencing reads, you have heating degree days, you have soil organic carbon. Putting that all together and to provide actionable insight into how you can improve where a plant is grown, what cross you need to make it better, or what are the underlying genetic elements that you can do to fine tune to really precisely improve the plant. All of that is hard to do with all such complicated heterogeneous data. And so there comes the third revolution, which is AI. AI does allow us to integrate data, to learn how to integrate that data. None of that matters, of course, if you create all of this in a vacuum in your ivory towers of Silicon Valley. So you also have to couple it with the end in mind. And so what we do is we focus on how to apply these model outputs. And as I alluded to, that comes in the form of either placing existing varieties better in the environment. We can simulate how a variety will operate to 10-meter resolution anywhere in the world. You can do the same thing with a cross, i.e. you can make a breeding program that is capturing the environment and the soil to 10-meter resolution anywhere in the world. And then when you peer deeper down into the molecular information, you can understand the individual genes and the individual base pairs that confer the properties of plants that you care about. So it's these three revolutions: AI, remote sensing, omics, the molecular information, targeted towards breeding, placement, and the underlying genetics. And the business model then is to focus on expansive opportunities in agriculture. So the places that haven't necessarily gotten the huge amounts of investment, basically most of the investment in the agricultural system has been focused on corn and soy yield. So what you can see is that we're using these technological disruptions to lower costs, accelerate timelines, and enable that kind of corn-like improvement everywhere else.
Brad, would love to talk a little bit about kind of the business model and customers. So you're essentially kind of licensing the platform or offering the platform to seed breeders, seed developers. Is that correct?
We have a few different ways of generating revenue. The one that we're most excited about and our main focus is when we enter into strategic alliances with folks. So this is most recently exemplified by our strawberry program. We're working with Red Sun Farms, one of the largest indoor growers of vegetables in North America. And then we're working with an excellent breeder in Europe called CIV. What we do is we take CIV's strawberry genetics, which are customized for North American, European outdoor growing, and we're bringing those kind of custom genetics applied towards the indoor grower in North America. And the business model there is to share in the value that's created. So these are real significant royalties on the improved plants. We also do software as a service. We have a platform, you can go to it, called predict.heritable.ag. That is a credit-based system where you can simulate your growing operations. You can move your genetics around the world. You can do breeding for credits. And then we work with seed companies in trait development. So we run the models and we provide them access to our outputs in order for them to develop new traits. And we take a royalty on the value that those traits create.
There's a lot there. What's working the best right now? Like, where are you seeing the most traction in your business?
They're all working exceedingly well. So I'm really happy about that. I think that there's been some lessons learned in agriculture. Trying to negotiate trait licenses with seed companies is usually pretty hard. So we do it, but we see it as more of a way to build those relationships and to really identify what the unmet need is for those organizations in the hope that we can move more towards these strategic alliances. The strategic alliances are the things I'm the most excited about and the things that have the best potential for creating real value. We really launched the software as a service platform, I think about 6 weeks ago. So it's early days. It's kind of a test for us, but we are seeing pretty exciting engagement. And it is a very low touch, low barrier way for people to provide value and for people to have access to our models without long contracting, long negotiations. You just go to the website and you can upload your data, and within an hour, you can be optimizing your operations.
Yeah, walk us through kind of that journey. If you're a user going on your platform, I see there's a claim now to get 10,000 free credits to start using the platform. Like, is that kind of the monetization where you're using tokens or credits, like kind of pay as you go based on how much you're using the platform, similar to like other LLM type services?
That's right. It's a standard software as a service model. If you're a small operation, you don't have the ability to make bespoke breeding programs or to test your varieties in new locations. This is a simple way with a credit card for you to be able to simulate your operations and make decisions. There's also an enterprise version where for larger companies that don't necessarily want to be working on a credit-based system, you can contact us and we can do more customized arrangements.
Brad, let's go through some specific examples of outcomes from the crop improvement perspective. Like, walk us through what are the improvements being made to these crops or to any part of the process. Like, walk us through maybe some of those value creation examples.
Yeah. So what Heritable does is provide the comprehensive solution to anybody trying to improve crops. That spans from breeding and product placement all the way down to very, very fancy, fine-tuned, gene-edited control. What we see is that in the product placement and breeding platform that we have, you really can reduce by doing digital field trials and by having digital twins of plants in the whole world, anywhere to 10-meter resolution, you can really drop costs by about 80% and reduce the development times by about half. So when you realize the impact of that, it's really quite stunning. In terms of understanding the underlying physiology and the underlying genetic determinants of what are controlling some traits, we see through validated experiments, meaning we run the field trial, we build the model, we identify genes, we commission gene editing to do the edits, and then we grow those plants in another field trial. So start to finish, we've shown in a few species that you get about a 30-fold increase in the ability to identify the causative genes for traits. And we do it in, so far we've shown 14 to 18 months. By comparison, the tomato rugose disease, the genes that were identified, and that took about 5 years to identify. Again, we take those kind of timelines and bring them down to months, not years. So those are two really clear, validated, real-world examples in real plants that we're seeing at this point. It's really quite exciting.
Very cool. Seems like a lot of different use cases and ways that users can kind of create their own use cases for it, like similar to how a lot of people use LLMs differently to extract value. Sounds like a lot of users can do that similarly with your platform on how they're looking at whatever problem they're looking to solve. Brad, as we kind of wrap up here a little bit, would love to get kind of a forward-looking view from you. You mentioned to view Heritable as a regular startup. So like in terms of funding, like what stage of the financing are you in, and how are you looking to scale as we get into the second half of the year here?
Yeah, so we've raised up through a seed round. So we did a pre-seed and a seed, and now we'll be kicking off our Series A in Q4. So in September, we'll start having those real conversations. It's really, really exciting. Again, we're showing that both our technology works, our business model works. We have exciting, real deep strategic alliances in the strawberry and the forestry sectors. And it's going to be really exciting to show that those business models scale.
Brad, this is all super interesting. As we wrap up, I'd love to just get your take on just the industry at large. And one question we do like to ask most guests is, what's your food or ag hot take? So maybe a contrarian opinion you have within agriculture.
I know there's a lot of excitement around CRISPR. That's where my origins come from. Again, I started as a synthetic biologist. I want everybody to know that that is a part of the solution. It's not the solution. There's a lot of traits that are controlled by thousands of genes, not a few genes. And so the ability to make meaningful impact on those is going to be very hard with CRISPR. The most famous of those traits is yield, the most important trait underlying the agricultural system. And then if you think about unmet need, sure, there are companies that have the big labs that are willing to take on the expense and the markets justify doing gene editing. But if you take a step back, there's huge amounts of people that just want to optimize their existing operations and figure out which of the huge number of varieties they're growing are the right ones to grow in which region. Or maybe they want to expand region, or maybe they want to build a breeding program. And those things, there's way more unmet need, and those require a different technology, a complementary technology to CRISPR. So I think what Heritable does is actually combine those two things and provide the comprehensive solution to anybody trying to optimize any plant in any geography for any application. But the contrarian view is that CRISPR is not the panacea. It's not the solution. It's a part of the solution.
Super cool. Well, this has been a ton of fun, Brad. Really enjoyed chatting with you about what you're building at Heritable. As we wrap up here, how can listeners get in touch and connect with you?
Go to our website, heritable.ag. There's a contact at heritable.ag. We've got a careers tab on there. So as we have open up more positions, we're looking for just excellent people that are mission driven. And yeah, that's how to get in touch with us.
Really hope you guys enjoyed that conversation with Brad talking about Heritable. We love getting founders, CEOs on this podcast to give us the updates. What's happening? How's the business growing? How's funding? And it was great to get him on to learn more about what Heritable is up to. If you're an ag tech founder, we'd love to have you on the podcast. We'd love to hear updates, announcements from you. So feel free to reach out. Tim and I are at Tyler and Tim at themodernacre.com is our email addresses if you have interest in getting on the show at some point.